What's good, fam? Thanks for joining me, your host, Corey Cabri, on the Living Life on Purpose podcast, where we discuss various topics on how to apply God's principles to your everyday life. I hope you enjoy the discussion.
Okay, alrighty. So we talking about spiritual growth, spiritual growth, and I just had a question because last week we talked about walking in the Spirit, right? And simply put, it's walking in God's direction, right? Choosing to walk in God's direction. And what was the scripture? Well, the scripture was 19 through 22. And before we jump into that, I just had like a question. Like, what does that really mean when you say spiritual growth? Like, what does that mean? Been thinking about that. Because you think about physical growth, you growing physically, right? It could mean a couple of things. You could be little and then you can grow into full stature, right? And then it could also mean like your bodybuilding, right? Like say, you're trying to build muscle, right? Right, that would be physical growth in a sense, physically growing your muscles, right? But when you think about spiritual growth, what is that? How does that look? I like to make sense of things, and not in the sense of logic, but we say a lot of stuff, but there's no real description, right? It's like, oh, I've been growing spiritually, and then you can't really describe how you've grown spiritually. And I mean, most times what we can attribute it to knowledge, right? It's like, oh, well, I know all of this stuff, but is that really spiritual growth? Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because you learned like all 65 books of the Bible, right? In the 66. Oh, well, I ain't read that one yet. But then when you get to that 66 one, then you good. That growth, is that just knowledge? Or does knowledge and spiritual growth go together? Nobody wants to talk about it? Nope. No?
Whatever we're doing, Corey, if it doesn't make us a better worshiper of God or a worshiper of God, is sort of useless.
Yeah. So then describe that. A better worshiper.
Where God has your absolute attention.
Okay.
Not that you know something about him, but that he has your attention.
Right. That's good.
It's a big difference in those two.
It is.
I mean, we say we know people, and for the most part, it's just a casual surface knowledge of another individual.
Right.
And we call that knowledge.
Right.
And it's so shallow.
I agree.
But his word proclaims what we are to be, or what we are. And
right.
our mission is to walk in the realization of all that, right?
Right.
So when we start talking about growth, I mean, it sounds like we comparing one another to, comparing ourselves to one another, and what good is that?
Is that it though?
And that's not it. It's a whole lot more than that.
Because when you go back to John 15, and he says, if you do this, meaning remain in him or abide in him, and right, you can bear more fruit.
Right.
So there is a more.
There's
right.
More.
What fruit? what fruit was he talking about, right? Right. So then there sounds like there was an advancement or a growth. You went from one stage to another stage. You grew from one place to another place, right? That's not comparing to somebody else. And then when you think about it, just this physical growth, there's this actual growth, right? You actually grow physically, and then you go into full stature. So there is a way to do that spiritually, or is it not? Well, try this on for size.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, please.
No, I was just, you kind of alluded to last week when you were talking about the Lord spoke to you about spiritual growth and it being, you're content to go at his pace. That's one way you can look and see your spiritual growth. And then earlier you talked about, is it connected to knowledge? And I say it is, but connected in this point that you have a self-awareness of how much spiritual growth you need to do. Your awareness of how much more fruit you have to bear. Your awareness of how much are you really dying to yourself, or are you really a dead woman or man walking? Are you really, so I think those are the ways that not looking or comparing at other people, but just really saying, is that old person really gone? Am I really walking in the newness of Christ that I have? And being able to see, like a thing I've been sharing with some friends recently is about, am I looking in the natural or with my spiritual eye? Because if I'm growing spiritually, I should not be looking at anything from a natural standpoint anymore. I need to be at a place where every interaction I have throughout the whole day, I'm hearing the Holy Spirit, or I'm asking God for guidance and knowledge and wisdom and revelation. God, help me see what's happening in the spirit, and not just trying to respond in the natural, but you're responding from a place in the spirit. And actually we end up reacting in the natural when we're not spiritually mature. And when you think about that scripture in Galatians and all the different things, when you walk after the flesh, it's really when you allow yourself to operate in the natural.
Right.
Being seduced by what you see, by what you hear, by what you taste, or what feels. So your five senses get in the way of that spiritual growth often.
That's good.
And, that's why it's so important to really understand that what does it mean to be in the world and not of it. Because those who are in it, and of it, then you can get distracted and be operating in that place from the natural and not at the spirit. And I know myself, I can easily get caught up in that. Just it only takes one skate on the radio station or one person to cut their eye at me, and then I'm like, whoa, she's still there, and so it's really great. Like, I love when things happen. Like, I just had something happen recently, and I called my friend, like, oh, man, this is so awesome. I did not want to cuss them out. Do you know, I just smiled. I remember a day when I would make a grown man cry when I found out all this. But you know what? I didn't even feel the need to do that. Because you know what the Lord told me? What could you do to him?
Yeah.
He's already a mess. You need to pray for this person.
Yeah.
They've already been hurt to no repair, and that's why they only know how to hurt other people.
Yeah.
And so that's that spiritual growth, I believe, that you're talking about. And it's not comparing. It's comparing your old versus your new. Who are you walking in each day?
Yeah.
So,
that's good.
That's it.
And y'all get that? That's good.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, I don't even have to say anything. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and end this call right now. I'm just kidding. I'm just playing.
We know. We know you.
Oh no, I know, I'm a mess. But it's, as I think about a lot of things, and it's good. I love what you brought out, and you touched on something. The walking in the mind of Christ, or seeing it through Christ's lens, right? And because that's the place where we're going, right? So when you look at a growth, and this is another thing too, because everything that you're doing, whether it's spiritual or physical, is still in the natural. You get that? Because you're performing it in your body. You're still walking it out, right? So when I say spiritual growth, and this is when I want what the Lord is showing me is, because we say spirit, and a lot of people may get confused in that, right? When you say spirit, like you're walking in a ghost. Walk in this ghost. You're not walking in the ghost, right? You're walking in your body. You're still in your body, right? And so this, to me, if you guys been with me for a little bit, when I say I like to make sense of it in that light, because we do a lot of sayings, and you say things and people can't really see it. It's like, man, I'm growing spiritually. And then people looking at you like, okay, what does that really mean? And what I mean by people is people that are actually trying to, emulate Christ's walk as well. They're basically new to the faith, right? And then they don't have a clue what you're talking about. And then they start repeating what you're saying because, just sound good when it came out. It's like, oh, well, I'm growing spiritually too. And then they're not. They're really not, right? So you hit the nail on the head in that it's seeing it through Christ's lens, right? And then after you see it, now are you walking in that? What you're seeing, right? So you see how Christ would walk in this. Now are you walking in it? And then the more fine-tuned you get in your walking and seeing, that's the growth, right? You becoming more and more closed-minded to how Christ sees it. And people say, oh, you're just so closed-minded. Well, that's what we are going to. We're becoming more closed-minded in how Christ sees it and how Christ walks in it, right? Mm-hmm. And then when you look at these from, what is it, 19 through 22, when you look at these, now you have measuring rods. These are just measurements. Right, you can look at the physical side. When you're not walking in it the way Christ would walk in it, then more than likely you're getting this physical side. Right, you're getting 19. All right, you're getting adultery, fornication, cleanliness, lewdness. You're getting idolatry, you get sorcery. You're getting all of that old stuff. Right, that feel good, but then got some old nasty consequences. Right, nasty consequences. But then when you're getting over in that spiritual Christ lens side, you're getting in that love, that joy, that peace, that long suffering, all of that stuff that don't really feel good, but it produces great results. All of the consequences are great. And notice this too. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, that when you do walk in Christ, when you do walk in it as though Christ is doing it through you, right? It may not actually benefit you. It may not necessarily benefit you. But the goal that Christ is bringing, that Christ wants to accomplish in you, it will be accomplished, and it will be great. It will be so marvelous. Like the people that is going to affect, or the person that is going to affect, it will be marvelous, right? So when you think about growth, when you think about spiritual growth, you're thinking less about yourself. Right, you're thinking less about yourself, and we can go through 22 and 23, right, and we can break down every one, right. But the big one to me, and what we started last week, and I think we was talking about patience, but the big one to me, it would be love, because when you walk in the love aspect of it, you're gonna do everything else. You're gonna do everything else, right? And I'm still uploading discussions from the love series. I was like, man, I didn't realize we were on love for so long. But you can't get around it. You can't get around the love, because when you look at Christ, the love he walked in, it was so blind to who he was, but so wide open in his visual to where everybody else was. His focus was on where everybody needed to be. Man, you need to be over here. You need to be over here. You need to be. And this is the beautiful thing about us. We not only have to walk in a sense of love towards others, but we also have to walk in a sense of love towards ourselves. It's like, what makes sense of that? Let me make sense of it. Because if I'm acting outside of what Christ is wanting me to act, how am I loving me? All I'm doing is setting myself up for consequences that are only going to harm me. So why would I put myself in those predicaments? Right? Think about that. Why would I put myself in a predicament that is only going to bring harm to myself? I'm out stealing. Right? What good am I going to get from stealing? Right? Yeah, I may have gotten a temporary possession, but as soon as I get caught, then what? I have potential to get shot or put in jail. I mean, because people are killing people over their stuff, right? So you want to get killed over stealing somebody's stuff? Is that what you want? Taking something that's not yours? I mean, and it's just fathoming it, right? It's just fathoming it. How you're not loving you in that light. You're not loving you in that light. So growth, thinking about growth in every decision you make. Does it reflect love towards you? I know that's tough. That's a different way of looking at it. I didn't even know Christ was going to lead me in that direction. Like really thinking about that. In the decisions you make and walking in Christ, right? And walking in the Spirit and walking in God's direction or not. How is it reflecting love towards yourself?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense? How is it reflecting love towards you? That's just a strange sense of selfishness in a sense, right? Because when we talked about it through the series of love, I mean, I call it a series, it really wasn't a series. We were just talking about love. But it was mostly on looking at other people. You making decisions so other people could get help. But we also got to think of it in ourselves, too. How is this really helping me? In the sense of reaping godly benefits. Reaping godly benefits. Make sense? Anybody else got something they want to add? No? So we talked about in the sense of growing spiritually, and God said it's walking at his pace. And how he initially gave it to me was this. He said, accepting what I'm allowing. Accepting what I'm allowing. And that's a hard pill to swallow. That's a hard pill to swallow. When you think about God saying, he told me this. He said, you have to accept what I'm allowing. It's like, what does that mean exactly? Let me break down what it meant exactly. At that point in time, I had just finished college. I was just finished college, and I didn't have a job, and I was living with my mom, and I was just trying to get any kind of job. I remember I applied at Lowe's. I went to Burger King. I applied at Burger King, and nobody would hire. And I'm at my mama's house. And the good thing about it, I didn't have any bills, and I didn't have my student loans, but they weren't requiring me to pay them back at the time. But I didn't need money. Well, I needed to eat, but my mom was furnishing it at the time, so it was cool, and she wasn't bothered by me staying there. But how I was raised, I wasn't raised to just be this Superman dude, but I had, as coming into Christ, desire to work, right? It didn't matter what kind of work. I'm just the type of person, I just like to work. But I didn't have a job, and I couldn't get one. Lord was like, I ain't getting you no job. It's like, oh, why not? You know, I mean, what's the deal? You know, it's like, why aren't you giving me a job, Lord? I need to work too, right? And, you know, it was a lot of times in my room just praying and fasting and just studying, not even to get a job, but just studying because just that's what I did. But then it would always come back to this question, like, you know, Lord, we go through our sessions of studying, fasting, praying, and then, you know, I go through my sessions of applying for jobs, and then you don't give me one. What's up with that? And then you ain't like, ain't nobody calling me to go preach. You know what I mean? So I'm just sitting here. What's up with that? And then it just, I don't know why, but it's just like he just spoke to me in a sense to settle my mind. He said, accept what I'm allowing. If I have you in this position, if I have you in this place, if I have you right here, then you good, right? Because I got you right here. If somebody else had you right here, then you probably punished. You probably get it punished. But I have you right here. Now that's where I was in the space of my life in that particular time, right? That was just chilling with my mom, no money, no job, but I was good, right? And it was like I it was either it was a choice I had to make. I had to accept it, or I had to keep fighting against it, right? Because in my mind, I was fighting against it because I hadn't accepted it yet. I was still trying to find this place that I was supposed to be when God was telling me, dude, right here. Because he didn't move me. He didn't move me till 3 months later, right? Till he finally said, all right, I'm going to give you this job. Then I got a job. But it was 3 months later. I had to chill right there, studying, chilling with him, just chilling with him every day. And my mom, I never forget, my mom came in the room sometimes. She's like, how you doing? I was like, man, I'm good, chilling. This is depressing. That's what she told me. I was like, well, I mean, it could be for some people, but this is where God has me, man. And I finally accepted it after about 30 days. But after I did, my mind was at ease. Like I could just walk. I could leave the house. I could leave the room. And I could just freely be what God wanted me to be in that particular space. That makes sense? Get that? I could freely be what God wanted me to be. Notice what I said, what God wanted me to be. Like I took the focus off of everything that I thought I should have been, and I focused on what God wanted me to be. What did God want me to be? Loving, kind, patient. You know, and you start thinking about these fruit, because notice that the fruit is only a result of your growth, right? It's like something that it's just a measurement. You know what I mean? That's just something that's tangible that people could see. They don't really see that spiritual growth. And then this is how God describes it to me. He said the growth is, like I pointed out earlier, or described earlier as Michelle described, it was me becoming more aware of where God wanted me to be and then me walking in it. That was it. And as a result, people got to see a loving me. They got to see a patient me. They got to see a kind me, right? A me that would have bared things that was hard. A me that controlled myself. A me that was gentle. And you only see all of those things. It just, what ends up happening? It just amplifies, right? It amplifies as the situation amplifies in the opposite direction, right? So as you get more pressurized, all of this fruit amplifies in the midst of it, which is why Christ on the cross, and he can still be praying for people, right? But he's hanging there suffering, but praying for people, telling them to not charge this against them. Now, I know we ain't got there yet, but we getting there. We ain't got there yet. But just getting that, right? So when you look at accepting what God is allowing, think about something, the worst thing you could possibly think about, and God, and you in that situation. It wasn't because you made this choice and you did something that was against God. This is just where God has you. And God is over here telling you to accept it because I'm allowing it. Why are you mad? If I'm allowing it, why are you mad? Make sense? If I allowed it, why are you mad? Why are you upset? How do I feel about the situation? That makes sense? The Lord, he has a feeling about it. How does he feel about it? And then when you start taking on that mindset, right? And you start, because that's the whole point. That's the whole point of our existence, man. That's it. That is it. It's like we become. I don't know if you ever seen the movie Matrix, but it's like we become the people in the Matrix, but on the outside, right? We're not controlled by the enemy. We become the Neos controlled by God. Right? But all of us are the Neos. It's not just one Neo, it's all of us. We work outside of the world, but in the world, but God is working through us. You know what I mean? So we get to go back into the Matrix and free up all the other people being controlled by the enemy. I mean, pretty much, I'm done. I am so done. You just take a point of me. Of course, I can keep talking, but I want y'all to talk, to share y'all's experiences. And this is the other thing, too. I'm sorry I said I was done, but I guess I was. But this is the other thing, too. It's always another situation that God is taking us into. And all we're doing is that's the same flow. That same flow. Whether it is something what we would consider to be good happening to us. You know, oh man, we finally got that job, and you know, we finally got that spouse, or we finally got over that sickness, or you know, we finally got, you know, healed from, you know, our children being whatever, something happened to them. We finally got over whatever that was going on. We in this state where everything is just glamorous and everybody is happy, you know, and we in that state now, right? Everything is just around us, it just feels good. You know, we get our physical goodness, right? That body goodness. Like, I love this space. It just feels so good, right? But how does God feel about it? It's the same mindset, right? It doesn't change, right? I mean, we tend to change. We tend to have a lapse, right? Because the feeling now is good. We tend to like, I love this space. I never want to leave this spot. But how does God feel about that spot? Like, we never think about it like that. Like, I know God has me here. Does he? Because it could be blind. Go ahead.
And we should feel that same way in the middle of a hard time of our life.
Right. But we don't, right?
Right.
But
Rejoice.
Spiritual growth, when you're experiencing spiritual growth, you'll experience that. Like, you can see yourself in a hard time, and you see that, I'm not as worried as I used to be. Like, I trust God. I know, and even that realization makes me personally feel good. And like, I'm in his will. Like, I know it's not good right now, but I keep seeing him change something every day to make me see that I'm coming out of it. And he's got it worked out. No matter what I do, as long as I stay in his will, like, it's still working out, no matter how bad it is for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? I know somebody else has something to say.
Rejoice in the Lord always.
Yes.
Yes.
And everything gives thanks. I've been thinking about this a lot with the holidays coming up, not to date your podcast, but I hear a lot of people talking about what they feel.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel like, even I say, I don't feel like cooking this year. Or I call somebody else hoping they cook for me. I don't feel like it either. I'm like, what? And then, you know, I was reminded, why do we do these things? Is this about family, or is it about us and making us feel a certain kind of way? Yeah. And even as people prepare for different things, like, why are you even doing those things? Why are you allowing holidays to stress you out? Because if we're focused on what we're supposed to be focused on, it should not stress you out.
It doesn't matter.
And I love what, you know, I've just been praying through. I have a lot of family, a lot of different places, and one choice means, you know, some people are upset. And I remember somebody said, pray about it, ask God, who's your assignment? You know, yes, it's all your family, but it's some people he's telling you're assigned to. I'm like, wow. Amen.
And those aren't always a joy to you each day. Like, you might want to avoid them.
Right, exactly.
It's like, no, this is where I'm leading you. Go there. Deal with it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what my friend was saying.
And what else I was alluding to when I said, when you're in that place of it feels good, and then you ask God, well, how does God feel about it? What I was alluding to was we can't allow the feeling to dictate our response.
Exactly.
Because, see, that's what we get caught up in. We get.
I don't feel like it.
Right. But what is God saying? Because in that place where it may feel good, God may not even want you to rejoice. Why wouldn't he want me to rejoice? It feels good. Well, so does sin. Feels good too now, don't it?
Yeah.
He wants you rejoicing over that sin? You start thinking differently, right? You start, well, you know, I didn't think about it in that light. But you think about what go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you, just like in that moment, like, well,
Yeah, And so then when you allow the lens of Christ to steer you, it's like what it does, it almost puts you in a state where it's like you're numb to everything unless God tells you not to be numb, right? And it's like, no, nobody wants to be a robot, but that's what we are, though. It's like, you don't look at yourself as a robot, but that's what you are. You're a robot. He said, without me, you can do nothing. And then until you really fathom that nothing, see, that's the part we don't really fathom. We don't really fathom that nothing. You start thinking about that nothing. If Christ takes whatever it is that he's giving us, right, he takes that away, there's nothing you can do. Just there's nothing. You can't be sad, happy. You can't, all them five senses, you can't be any one of them. But then he gives you back his breath or his spirit. Then, okay, now you can operate in it. But guess what? All you're doing is operating in it. And that operating is you're choosing to be one of them. You're making the decision to be one of them. And then everything that is making you be you just follows your decision. It just follows it. That's all it does. It just follows it. Because your body functions in the light that it functions, regardless of you. But then you choose how well the body becomes or not well. But then you can't really dictate if it isn't well or not. I said this one day in a daily devotional. I can work my body out, but I can't make my muscles grow. I can eat healthy, but I can't make my body healthy. I can't make my body respond to the food the way I want it to. God does. There are people that eat the same way that I eat, and they look at me like, how you so lean like you are? And I'm not. I try to practice balance too, but my scale isn't. I'm just saying. My
really?
Scale is a little bit to the right, not to the center. I'm just trying to make sense of everything, right? We got to get this, right? All we're doing is making decisions, man, and that is it. Apollo's watered, Paul planted, or Paul planted, or Paul watered and Apollo's planted, and I'm pretty sure they did both in various times. But God gives the increase. God gives the increase, right? And whatever God has you doing at that moment, then that's what you need to focus on. If he has you planting right now, plant. If he has you watering right now, water. If he has you doing nothing right now, do nothing.
And don't take it personal.
Yes. Don't look at it as a knock.
Don't take it personal.
It's not. It's not a knock. Right? And that's when we get in trouble, Brother Jim, because we start looking at how God is using other people, and then we start comparing ourselves to how God is using them. Well, God ain't using me like that, and I feel like I'm more qualified than they are. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
Right.
I mean, for real. I mean, Lori knows this, I think. A long time ago when I first launched my book, I had an offer for a TV show on a cable network out in Denver. And so moved out there, taped a few of the shows, the pilot, then things switched, the network went under, whatever. And so now there's this daytime show on called Something and Something, this man and this woman, and they happen to know some famous. And it's like the stupidest daytime show to me ever, and it's low budget, and it's just so, and I'm like, I can't believe my TV show is not on. I'm like, are you serious, Jesus? And I just have to turn it off. Just be like, you don't compare. It obviously wasn't for me. That's not what God had for me to do in ministry. And I look at this other people that are just like, are you serious? They got people on video chat, and that's their guests. I'm like, are you serious?
Yes, I'm with you, right? I know exactly what
But I can't be like that. But I also wanted to encourage, if there's anyone listening, and what I hear in the comparison spirit, they say, oh, you waited 3 months, Corey, big deal. I've been waiting 30 years. Or, you know, there's that person I know of that's had like 7 miscarriages, that person who's been waiting on a job for 5 years, and they're like, I've turned it over. I've been, you know, just looking at my spiritual growth. This is it. And I think we talked about it in another study before. Well, isn't God enough? what does it mean when we say he's more than enough? Is he more than enough or not? Because no matter the timing, we have to be at that place where it's all him or nothing. And if this isn't what we had in mind, this obviously is his will. Like you said, this is what he's allowing. Can I accept it, whether it be 3 months or 30 years?
Yes.
Because we're talking about an eternity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so everything we do here is nothing but practice.
That's it.
And so if this is the dress rehearsal he gave me for presence with him forever, then I'm going to take it. So just being at that place.
That's good.
Great is your reward.
Exactly. I hope y'all got that, because that was good. You know, and that's a big thing that we do. We measure how God is using other people, and we look at it and we like, and on both sides, like on the negative. Oh, you only waited 3 months. I've done that 300 times that amount, right? And then that goes back to the other part that I was saying, wherein you're in this state and you feel like, oh, you finally getting your blessing for waiting, right? And you're like, oh, it's just so, life is good now. Well, life was good when you didn't have this thing you saying is a blessing, right? It was good then too. And then you think about somebody that doesn't have what you just been given, and then you like, oh, well, just keep waiting, then, because God is gonna bring you through too. But then what if God doesn't? God forbid he doesn't, right? But what if he doesn't? And then so now people are still looking at the position, right? But they're not looking at God. See, when God moved me from one season to the other season, trust me, it wasn't a better season. Yes, I was getting money in some aspects, but then I wasn't. Because the job he gave me, I wasn't getting paid. He just gave me work. So I am not kidding. I remember, Brother Jimmy, we talked about this.
I remember.
Yes, I wasn't getting paid. So people were looking at my situation and like, oh man, he finally got his job. Well, he working and he ain't getting paid, y'all. What? I can't rejoice in that. Right? But I could, because it was another lesson. And even that person that got the job and was getting paid, there was another lesson. And that's life. Life is it's a life of lessons. It's how you going to respond to God in the situation, right? Yes. And that's the thing we miss. That's the thing we miss, because that's what I'm saying. We got to get that. We may not get it tonight, but as we grow spiritually, as we grow and we see through Christ's lens and we walk in the way that he walked, that's all he did. Read it, please. He said, Go ahead.
When God describes everything he made as good, and then we try to receive some of it as bad, that's sort of stupid.
Yeah. It's diminishing God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's diminishing God.
Insults him.
It is.
He called it good.
He said it was good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was smiling at Lazarus. I know we ain't talked about him in a long time, but he was smiling at Lazarus. He was broke, sick, and hungry.
Yeah.
So the boy wasn't eating, and the boy didn't have no money, and he didn't have no job. And by the way, he lived at somebody's gate. But he was smiling at Lazarus. He's smiling at it. I have him on assignment. Like I have him on assignment. He's on assignment, guys. And everybody's assignment is different, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why the spiritual growth is key, because everybody's assignment is different. And Michelle, you brought that out earlier. It's measuring where you were to where God is taking you, right? And you looking at it. You're not looking at it in the sense of I'm not there anymore. It's God is taking me somewhere else. I can't stay where I was because God is taking me somewhere else. You know what I mean? Because we tend to get stagnant in the middle when we say, oh, well, I'm not there anymore. But God is taking you somewhere else. You know what I mean? You still here. That means he's not done. Like, just because you operated, this is tight. He just gave me this right now. Just because he gave you that manna for yesterday ain't good for tomorrow. And what I mean by the manna, the character that he built for you yesterday, it ain't good for tomorrow. It ain't going to work. It's not. The character he built for you yesterday was good for yesterday, and then when tomorrow comes, it's another character he's trying to build.
And his mercies are renewed.
Exactly, and the mercies are renewed. I can't stay stagnant. I mean, trust me, there are situations that God has up ahead of us that you gotta stay fixated on him, because it's only, man, you thinking that $1 million that he bringing is just so glorious that he bringing it, that million, he bringing it for you. It's gonna free up all of my worries and my troubles. Oh yeah, the ones you have today, but the ones you about to get tomorrow, it ain't. You're gonna be like, I need 20 more million to get out of this hole the million put me in. I'm being facetious, but I'm not. Man, I'm okay. I'm for real done this time. For real done.
Well, family, I hope the discussion has encouraged you. I hope it has enlightened you. I hope it has infused you with love and truth to live a life filled with God on purpose. And if it has, join us again for more godly discussions. Thank you.